Good evening, everyone. At this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order for the LaPorte County Commission, Wednesday, July 15th. We'll start with a Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Matias?
Present.
Commissioner Cora?
Present.
Commissioner Mrozinski?
Present.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, we would like to consider this evening's agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections?
Madam President, under requests, we'd like to add unused sick days to be paid for Terry Singleton by County Clerk Kathy Kroback.
Second that motion.
Thank you.
And then I make a motion to approve the amended. But, Madam President, one other item we need to add to the agenda is the grants that we obtained for the small businesses, the COVID Lifeline small business grants that will be distributed today.
So where would you like that added on the agenda, sir?
Madam President, if we can add after the claims, consideration of the claims, because a lot of these businesses, they need to get back to their businesses.
All right, thank you. So we have two additions. We have the, under number 9, we have a request for unused sick days, and then we have the Lifeline grant inserted before item 7. Anything else to be added or changed on the agenda?
I make a motion to approve the amended agenda.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve the amended agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion has carried. Next on the agenda, we have the approval of the minutes for our July 1st, 2020 meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor to approve the minutes of our meeting from July 1st. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Next on the agenda, the consideration of claims.
We have payroll ending July 3rd of 2020 in the amount of $1,204,652.42. And for miscellaneous claims, $1,838,816.86.
Madam President, I'll make a motion to approve the claims as presented.
Second the motion.
Just for clarification purposes, the public needs to realize that the commissioners received these claims well in advance of the meeting, and we've had time to review and ask questions and address any concerns we might have. All those in favor of the motion to approve the claims as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is carried. Next on the agenda, we would like to consider the distribution of the Lifeline grants. This is a direct response for LaPorte County to the COVID impact on our local businesses. Some funding was presented to us from the state, and we had to compete for that money. We competed for $250,000 of our tax dollars that went to Indianapolis, and we were able to bring it back home to benefit 27 local businesses. So at this time, Tony Rodriguez and Bailey McGrath from the Office of Community and Economic Development would like to give a short presentation.
Yes. Madam President, members of the Commission, okay, this is glued down now. Okay, very stable. Be as brief as we possibly can, but quite frankly, this is it's a great day, culminating the work, a lot of hard work by a tremendously committed team. And when I say team, that team is quite extensive, beginning with Madam President in the initial meeting, making the strong recommendation to increase the ask amount from $150 to $250, which wound up proving to be a tremendous suggestion. The grants are to serve the challenge that was put out by the Office of Community and Rural Affairs was to offered several different types of initiatives. We selected the small business job retention initiative as what we deemed to be the priority for LaPorte County, and pursued those funds. The objective is to retain permanent full-time jobs in LaPorte County. So we're very pleased to report to you this evening, and we're hopeful that we have at least several of those small businesses here with us this evening. And at this time, we would ask them to come forward because we have their grant checks with us this evening. So if we have any of the small business owners, please step forward at this time.
So perhaps, Tony, I could read into the record the names of the companies and the amount that they have as their grant from the state.
Excellent.
Okay, so the first company is Immediate Movers, received $10,000. Janice Lynn Weish, a barber, $5,000. Blackjack Pines, $10,000. Sweet Lou That's Who, $10,000. JB Supermarket, $5,000. Lesson Pearls, $10,000. Fitness Plus, $10,000. Z Cuts Lawn Maintenance, $5,000. Reliable Car Sales, $10,000. Transition Equestrian Center, $10,000. Dunlin Hospitality, $10,000. Schmidt Markin Designs, $10,000. Charles Bailey Trucking, $10,000. Pine Grove Banquet Hall, $10,000. Bistro Vault, $10,000. The Ville Bar and Grill, $10,000. Craig Fouts and Sons, $10,000. J&B Feed, $5,000. Lakeside Lavender and Herbs, $5,000. Jimmy's of Westville, $10,000. Last Resort Campground, $10,000. Jenny Ray's, $10,000. Heston Inc., $10,000. Shander Remodeling, $5,000. L&K Cleaning, $10,000. Chiron Veterinary Services, $10,000. And Mofield Property Services, $10,000. And I think it's really important to note that these are small businesses that work in our community. They provide services for our community, and they also have employees who are our family and our friends and our neighbors. Important to note that this will help them make payroll. This will help them keep their doors open so that once COVID passes, they will continue on their successful trajectory. So congratulations to everyone. I think you have a few that are here, so maybe we can do a check presentation.
I would also add that is equally important to mention, and I've stressed that, the teamwork that's gone into getting this assistance approved, some of which in our communication with the LaPorte County Council were unable to attend this evening. We know that our Councilman Michael Rosenbaum has the president of our council have spent just hours and hours, countless hours, dedicated to getting this process not only approved but run seamlessly through the state to overcome several hurdles. So,
Mr. Rodriguez, Council President Mr. Novak and Councilman Mr. Molinar are here from the redevelopment. So thank you for your help on this one.
yes.
This was truly a team effort across the county to make this happen.
Without, it goes to the not only the local level, but our state elected officials,
Absolutely.
Senator Bohacek, Representative Boy, Representative Pressel, literally picked the phone up, made those calls to make a difference, to make this happen. So it is, it's truly we're glad to be at this point and culminating all that hard work. So
congratulations to all the recipients.
Yes.
Thank you.
yeah, I know this is quite obtrusive to be doing it in the middle of a meeting, but I think for expediency purposes, if we can have them come up, we'll take one wide-angle picture of the whole group.
All right.
If that's acceptable.
That's fine.
Yeah, come on up.
Congratulations, everyone.
In the spirit of this being, we're all coping with the COVID issue, just to have the mask on is the prudent thing to do, so everyone just keep their mask on.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I'm gonna have to. I don't know because I got the original here too. Oh, you got it. Yeah.
Bailey,
Yeah, that's okay.
That's fine.
Bailey, just go ahead and take pictures of them.
yeah.
Probably get a bunch of it.
Ready?
Smile.
They didn't blink. I took a whole bunch.
All right.
Congratulations, everyone.
All right. I'll take everyone outside. And I'll give you a
Thank you. Thank you, Bailey.
Thank you.
We appreciate your effort.
Next on the agenda, we have general public comment. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak at this time? Any members of the public who would like to speak at this time?
Good evening, Commissioners. Joe Haney, 2695 West Joliet Road. There's a lot to comment on tonight, but I'm going to try and keep it as brief as I can here, focused on the main item at the end of the agenda. One of the things I'd like to preface with, as a clinician and a clinical manager with over 15 years of experience, one of the first things I immediately noticed, there seems to be a misunderstanding of terms, specifically masks versus face coverings. I believe part of this confusion may be intentional and is designed to confuse the public into thinking that studies for masks, such as surgical masks for N95 respirators, are the same things as face coverings. They are not. And I've heard before from this commission words exchanged such as studies show masks can help, followed closely by wear face coverings. The only logical conclusion I can discern from such carefully crafted verbiage is that this is a purposeful effort on behalf to confuse the public in order to conflate one with the other. They're very different things, and I think it's very disingenuous to pretend that they aren't. In addition, in 2009, 2010, 2012, 2017, 2019, and 2020, early 2020, randomized control tests were done, and these are all peer-reviewed studies and published studies with groups ranging between 2,000 and 9,000 participants done with N95 respirator masks, not cloth coverings. And I'm sure none of you would argue that an N95 mask provides superior filtration to any cloth face covering. This is extremely important to note, and it showed no significant reduction in the transmission of viruses such as influenza. Why is it important? We're talking about influenza here, for example, and other viruses similar. It's because COVID-19 is the same particulate size as influenza. Furthermore, in 2015, the only actual peer-reviewed RTC study showed that cloth masks not only didn't help prevent the spread of viruses, but they actually contributed to a greater risk of contracting the virus. Specifically, it said, moisture retention, reuse of cloth masks, and poor filtration may result in an increased risk of infection. And that's directly from the 2015 study. And all of these studies are readily available at PubMed. I encourage all of you to go ahead and take a look at those. Now in 2020, we also know that hand-to-face transmission of COVID-19 is a significant vector for the risk of infection, and cloth coverings drastically increase hand-to-face contact in the general public. And I will say today, and we can go back and look at the video, every single one of you up here sitting here today has touched your mask multiple times in the barely 15 minutes that we've been here today. In fact, Commissioner Cora, when he took and removed his mask, he immediately sculpted and stroked his mustache. He then went on to lick his lips. That is a direct vector to introduce the virus into your body. I think it's important to point this out, as we may be giving false hope to the public, especially when it comes to a mandate. Now, what we do know that works and what has been studied is social distances and best practicing for hand hygiene, both of which, as we've already demonstrated here aptly tonight, fly right out the window when we're talking about cloth face coverings. A few days ago, when I learned of the addition to the agenda for this evening for the mask mandate, I was curious as to what would prompt such a mandate here in LaPorte County, and I asked myself, why now? Why 4 months into the COVID-19 pandemic are we talking about this only now? I looked at hospitalization numbers this morning, ICU bed numbers, and they are the lowest they've been in months, even years. So why now? I looked at ventilator use numbers for here in LaPorte County and for the state. Available capacity is 84% right now. And of the 16% that are being utilized, only 1 in 5 is for a COVID-19 related illness. So again, why now? The total numbers of death and mortality rates for COVID-19 continue to plummet each and every week, and hasn't for the past 2 months here in the U.S. Here specifically in LaPorte County, which is what we should mostly be focusing on, out of the 28 total deaths for the entire duration of the pandemic, the last 6 weeks have seen 4. So again, I ask, why now? And all that information can be readily accessible to the public at coronavirus.in.gov, as well as LaPorte County website. Yesterday, the CDC released its first data on cloth face masks since this pandemic started. It's well after the agenda item was added onto tonight's agenda, so that probably wasn't the reason. And the information presented in that report itself is anecdotal at best and has not been peer-reviewed. In fact, to date, no data to support cloth face coverings has ever been peer-reviewed and published. So why are we talking about a mandate here today? Walmart earlier today announced that all their stores on July 20th will be requiring masks. Apparently COVID's on vacation until July 20th? I'm not sure. In any event, why now? This Elkhart County mandate that's being foisted upon us tonight would make LaPorte County the 5th county in Indiana to adopt such a mandate. And as an aside, I'd like to point out this is just the latest snatch and grab technique that we've seen from Commission leadership when it comes to ordinances that have been tried to be passed in the past 3.5 years. At least this latest copy-paste hatchet job is from an Indiana-based county and not randomly pulled from some obscure town in Illinois. But the biggest question here is why now? Last week in a press release, the CDC said that COVID-19 was on the verge of losing its epidemic status. Why now? The only thing that has changed in the past 2 weeks to support a mask mandate is one thing: public opinion polls. For the first time in these past 2 weeks, public opinion polls have crested 50% in support of a mask mandate. Why now? Because it's politically expedient to pander to public opinion polls as opposed to making public health policy decisions based upon the facts and the actual scientific data that we have. Furthermore, I'd like to point out that the Indiana Attorney General on June 30th pointed out specifically in regards to the Elkhart County, when questioned about its enforceability and constitutionality, he said, and I'll quote, "Actions that contradict that order do not create grounds for law enforcement to stop, detain, harass, issue a citation, arrest, or otherwise intimidate individuals who do not comply with that order." And that was again from the Indiana Attorney General on June 30th. There is no way that this can be enforced. It is virtue signaling at its best. And if there's anything that should be done by the Commission tonight, it should be to reinforce what practices we know do work: social distancing, hand hygiene, and things like that. A mandate as far as masks are concerned are not only not warranted, it's unenforceable, and it's also unconstitutional. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, we're going to discuss this. Hopefully you'll stay back and we'll give you some information at that when we discuss that item.
Sure. Commissioner, I really hope you look into these studies. There's numerous ones, and support the data of what I'm speaking about. They're all readily available. I'd be happy to send you every single link if you'd like.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any other member of the public who wishes to speak at this time? Please approach. Thank you.
Good
evening.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
I'd like to speak also on the last agenda item tonight. I am Tim Stabos, 1501 Michigan Avenue, LaPorte. I'm a risk manager for a living, as both an accountant by training and a professional financial analyst and professional investor by way of life. I use data and numbers systematically to value the underlying worth of companies. That's what I have done for the last 30 years. I always let the numbers and what they tell me be my guide. CNN and hysteria mongers in the media who seek and desire to scare our people are not epidemiologists, statisticians, or risk managers. They love promoting sky is falling worst case scenarios. My appeal to you, your job as leadership, please do not cave into the media fear-mongering. The people that are getting COVID now are young, which makes sense, because they have gone back to both work and play. And yet the national death rate has barely climbed. We are slowly achieving herd immunity. And this is what is supposed to happen. We are not supposed to be able to stamp this thing out completely overnight. Indeed, hospital usage and daily deaths in LaPorte County and District 1, which comprises the whole of Northwest Indiana, are just fine and have barely budged. Our people are being appropriately cautious and prudent already. Do not impinge on people's personal freedoms to coerce the people of LaPorte County with a mask mandate. Do not succumb to the hysteria around what is going on in Texas, Florida, and Arizona. It is not happening here. As Mr. Haney has pointed out, regular cloth masks give people are unproven and give people a false sense of security. and they have risks and costs of their own. They trap bacteria inside the face. My partner's face has swelled up because of it. She reports people at work who have respiratory issues because of masks. If someone coughs on you, the virus particles are on the masks. People are then constantly adjusting their masks and touching their faces. The original CDC guidance from March is appropriate. Unless we are all going around wearing N95 masks, they don't do much of anything and have costs. How can we confer herd immunity if we are trying to guarantee that no one catches coronavirus? Let people live their lives. Do not create undue and unnecessary fear in LaPorte County residents. Let the statistics be your guide. Please. There has been no material escalation in COVID spread in LaPorte County or indeed in District 1, which includes Lake Porter, LaPorte, and other counties. Please do not put in place a county-wide mask mandate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other member of the public who wishes to speak at this time? Last call. Any other member of the public? Thank you. We'll move on to department reports and department head comments. Any department head who wishes to speak at this time? Good evening.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Rick Brown. I'm MS4 coordinator in the county. I'm here to talk to you about a little levity. I know the COVID-19 is terrible. However, Mr. Mozinski and I had a conversation. I've got some packets for you to look at with some funny pictures. But at the same time, I want you to understand that I'm being informed that our little MS4 program in LaPorte County, which probably my budget's probably less than what you folks make individually, that we're doing the best in the state with our outreach program. As of this week, we have 275,840 hits, and we've been doing this 10 months. Anybody that wants to look at our videos and have a little fun and get education about how to protect our stormwater, believe me, our Pine Lake, Clear Lake, Lily Lakes are worth millions. I've read some studies east of us in counties. People have no idea the importance of our lakes. And it's my job to protect them the best I can. I do that. We're doing that with levity. We're doing that with May the MS4th be with you, a whole kinds of things like that. Just to give you a fast update, like I say, we're being told that we got the best outreach in the state. I don't mean to boast, but I feel really good about that and what we're doing for our stormwater. So basically, I'm just here to let you read it, let you see it. And I don't know if you folks have any questions for me. I'll answer anything you may have right now. But first of all, hit the little red button when you go on YouTube. That'll make you a subscriber and watch our videos and enjoy them. They're levity, but they're also informative. So, any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Brown. I love that your positive energy that you bring to your job. You have to admire someone who loves their job as much as you do and makes it fun and educational. So thank you so much for your presentation.
And we are doing on Wednesdays Coffee with Rick Brown. We have a book this thick of subscribers that send us questions.
Okay.
And Ariana Woodson, my assistant, picks out 20 questions impromptu, and every Wednesday morning you can watch me have coffee with a brick and a perk background from friends, and we answer the questions for all of our viewers. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Have a good night, everybody.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to comment there that Rick does come in my office very regularly, keeps me up to date on what they're doing. Also, I sit on the drainage board, and he has a good report every month with what he's doing with the drainage. And it is something LaPorte County should be proud of. He's doing a heck of a job there.
That's
and
right.
I think a lot of it goes unnoticed, but we're lucky to have him and Mike Paulin both.
Well, I'm here to work for you folks as well.
Thanks so much.
Common citizens. Keep our water clean. That's most important. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other department heads who wish to speak at this time? I know some of department heads are on Zoom. Any department head that wishes to speak at this time, give us a wave. Mr. Butcher, do you have any updates on?
Tony Mancuso was.
Okay, Tony Mancuso. Tony, let's hear from the health department, please.
Hold on, Tony.
I can hear him, Darlene. I don't know if you guys can.
No.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Now we can. Okay.
I'll give a brief summary. We have 12 cases today, 12 positive cases.
brings our total to 652 cases and 28 deaths. A little bit on the screening for the week of the first week. Hyler Building had 405 people go through. Michigan City Courthouse had 352 people go through. In LaPorte County Courthouse, 820 people. We had to turn 2 people away because they had chronic coughs, and 1 patient was turned away because of excessive temperature readings. So that's the first week of what's going on so far, our attempts and screening. Any questions?
Tony, this is Dr. Cora. This week, the 3 days this week, how many positive cases did we get on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday?
Well, we had 12 cases today, and I believe we had 12 yesterday.
No, we had, you know, let me tell, no, hold on. We had 25 on Monday, 5 on Tuesday, and 12 today. Total 42 in 3 days.
Correct.
About 3 or 4 weeks ago, on an average, were we not getting 2 or 3 cases a day?
Correct. Yeah, there were 3 or 2 cases at a time.
Okay, so have you...
Counts were closed. The counts were low back then.
Yeah, would you say that the numbers of positive cases have gone up significantly this week?
Well, I think there's a lot more testing going on compared to last time when we had the Optum Center. They were only testing, what, 12, 15 people at a time? And it seems like this week we're doing hundreds of people. 110 people go through that 10 a day. So there's a lot more testing going on.
And the numbers have also gone up, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. All right.
Anything else, Tony, you wish to share?
No, that's it.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Butcher, can you give us a quick update on emergency management?
Yeah. I'm kind of with Dr. Cora there and his statements. I kind of take my information from Indianapolis, of course, CDC, and the bosses that I have that govern my distribution of PPE. Just to let you know, the county right now is sitting pretty well. I have approximately 30,000 masks, both paper, cloth, over 550 gallons of hand sanitizer. I think we're set good. I do place 2 orders per week. And regardless to where we are right now, it is my position to plan for the worst. So if the numbers continue to go up, as it did with the other states that reopened and their numbers went up, you know, statistics show once the reopening, the numbers tremendously went up. And yes, we have more testing. I am going to continue to get more testing. After the site closes at the Civic Center, I will be moving it back to Michigan City for another 30 days, hopefully, and I will try and keep it here as long as we can. Our numbers are down right now, and I think if we take all the 4-pillar precautions, that'll help keep our numbers down. If we do nothing, I think our numbers will get away from us. So, you know, as an emergency management director, I hope that decisions are made by, you know, the leaders of this county to do what's best to keep our numbers low. And right now, to me, it concerns me the direction that we're going.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Any other department heads on Zoom that wish to make any comments at this time?
Mr. Butcher, I just had one comment, Madam President. Mr. Butcher, when you take this back to Michigan City, Ms. Allen from the Minority Health Coalition, she had offered her site for testing, so just keep that in mind.
Correct. That is the site I plan on using.
Okay, all right, thank you.
After I inspect it and make sure the egress and ingress is correct and there's enough room and how the ventilation is in the building.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Butcher, you also want to make sure that there's appropriate air conditioning. I understand in Porter County they're having they have a site, but it's not well used because it has no air conditioning. And with the heat we've been having, people are not using that facility. So just FYI.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Will do.
All right. Any other department heads who wish to speak at this time? All right, let's move along then. Next on the agenda, we have requests. The first request is for unused sick days to be paid to Judy Grott upon retiring Community Corrections.
Madam President, I make a motion to grant this request.
I will second the motion. Judy Grott has been an outstanding employee for this county for, I think, 33 years. Those people are hard to find. I'll second your motion, sir.
We have a motion and a second on the floor to consider granting Judy Grott upon her retiring from Community Corrections her unused sick days. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Next on the agenda, consider request for unused sick days to be paid to Eve Granacki upon retiring. Treasurer Lynn Spivak.
Yeah, Eve's been with us for 22 years, not quite as long as Judy, but she's also retiring and hopefully moving to Florida. And I'm thinking, I don't know if that's the right state to go to from Indiana, but that's where her daughter lives and grandchildren. So I've been very happy with her that she would be able to move on to be with more family members. So
that's wonderful.
So just need approval to pay her, and I have money in my budget to pay it.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you. Madam President, I make a motion to grant the request.
Second motion.
We have a motion and a second to grant the request to pay the unused sick days to retiring Eve Granacki. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion has carried. Next on the agenda, we have consider request for unused sick days to be paid to Terry Singleton upon her retirement from Clerk Kathy Kroback.
Good evening, Commissioners. Yes, sad day. Terry Singleton, after 25 years with the county, has contemplated this for some time and decided, I think since March, that she kind of likes being off a little bit and decided to retire. It's a huge job. She is a bookkeeper for all of our clerk's offices. She handles all the money and all the reporting. She got hired on September 9th of 1996, and she's been with the county ever since. Most probably, I would say, 22 years as a bookkeeper. So I'm just requesting that she be paid for her unused sick days.
Madam President, I make a motion to grant the request.
Second motion.
We have a motion and a second to grant the request for unused sick days to be paid to Terry Singleton upon her retirement. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you, Kathy. So before we move on, we have 3 long-term employees, so let's wish them well on their journey. Judy Grott, Eve Granacki, and Terry Singleton, and thank them for their tremendous years of service to our community and to the public. So thank you from the LaPorte County Commission.
Thank you. Madam President, I also would like to suggest to Diane to send a letter to all 3 of them on behalf of all 3 of us to expressing our gratitude for this service.
Thank you. That's perfect. All right, moving on. Under old business, discuss the unanimous Indiana Court of Appeals decision denying class action request by Charles Dempsey against LaPorte County Auditor in the matter of Charles Dempsey versus the LaPorte County Auditor Joey Winsky et al.
Yes, Madam President, members of the Commission, very pleased to report Monday morning's unanimous decision by the Indiana Court of Appeals in the long-running case filed in 2015 by the Chicago law firm of Ford and O'Meara on behalf of Long Beach property owner Charles Dempsey against our auditor Joey Winsky and the treasurer, claiming there should be a class action allowed involving interest due on parcels where taxes were reduced due to the 2008 reassessment order by the state. The auditor relied on a 2011 letter signed by DLGF Commissioner Brian Bailey. She has vigorously stood by her position that interest was not due to those who may have received refunds or credits as a result of an assessment appeal. As you can all imagine, this case potentially involved hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars that the county would have owed had either the trial court judge or Court of Appeals found that interest was due to a class, as we have some 88,000 parcels in the county. Hence the significant effort we've made in fighting this litigation since it was filed 5 years ago. My recommendation was to bring on board Delaney & Delaney as my co-counsel, and they specialize in opposing class certification. While the Plaintiffs' Counsel has until April 12th to file a petition for transfer to the Indiana Supreme Court, there's not a lot, frankly, in the Court of Appeals decision to give Plaintiffs' Counsel much hope, but we will see where this goes at this point. But I wanted to report publicly the unanimous decision of the Court of Appeals backing our auditor's position in this particular case, and we will keep the Commission and public informed on progress going forward.
Thank you. Congratulations, Auditor Winsky. When Attorney Friedman said you vigorously opposed it, we all knew what that meant, because you are vigorous in a lot of your feelings of what's right and what's wrong. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, moving on, under new business, consider favorable recommendation for a vacated portion of Beach Drive.
Yes, hi. My name is Sharon Stein. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, first I want to thank the commission members for listening to my concerns. Also, I want to thank...
Wait.
You're out of order. She's out of order here.
Excuse me. I didn't know if she was the attorney or who she was.
No,
so.
she's an adjacent landowner.
Okay, so ma'am, if you have a comment, let's have the presentation from the attorney first on the recommendation, and then I will allow public comment after that. Okay? So just hold on just a moment. So let's consider the recommendation for a vacated portion of Beach Drive. Mr. Volz, would you make your presentation, and then we'll have public comment.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson, and I apologize for stepping in like that, but we've got to keep a record clear here at this point. My name is Andrew Volz, and I represent Don and Catherine Booty, who reside at 115 Maple Drive in LaPorte. Procedurally, this has been hanging around since January. We originally filed a petition to vacate the plotted but undeveloped roadway known as Beach Drive back in January of 2020. At that point in time, when it was heard by the Plan Commission, there was not a quorum present in order to present a favorable ruling, so there was no recommendation that was given to the Commissioner's office. So then it was sent back to the Plan Commission. It was reheard on June 23rd, and at that point in time we had a unanimous vote for recommendation to the Commissioners that the plotted but undeveloped roadway known as Beach Drive be vacated in favor of my clients Don and Catherine Booty. And now again, just to clarify, at the original petition we were only talking about a little sliver. But now what I presented to you tonight with regards to the map that's in front of you is now I'm going to refer to it as the upside down 7. Because Mr. and Mrs. Booty and myself, as well as some former remonstrators who are represented by Newby, Lewis, Kaminsky, and Jones, have gotten together and come up with a solution that will, in my mind, solve every problem that's going on out there. So we are requesting that the remaining portion of Beach Drive be vacated in favor of Don and Catherine Booty in the same manner that this commission approved and voted to vacate the other portion of Beach Drive for Mr. Booty and Mr. and Mrs. Booty's adjacent neighbor, the Slaters, to the south. And Nick, I think you've probably got some stuff to add here, correct?
Sure. Good evening. Nicholas Otis on behalf of Joe and Megan John Kind at 126 Maple Drive, Brian and Erica O'Malley at 334 Oak Drive, Jeremiah and Norma Ash at 338 Oak Drive, and Todd Reed at 336 Oak Drive. They are adjacent landowners, and to give you some background, they have used this road that was never developed for their access to Pine Lake, and whether they were misled that it was an easement or what, it's not, so we're trying to reach a resolution. We have agreed to withdraw our remonstrance if we can reach this agreement. It's our understanding this is a first reading tonight. You won't be voting on it. We believe we'll have a deal in place by the first August meeting, especially with we've got 3 weeks between then. So I think it is a fair resolution. I believe Ms. Stein was going to comment. She's also an adjacent property owner. We believe that the concerns that she has will also be incorporated as a part of this resolution. And certainly, I'm not speaking on behalf of her, but we're trying to make sure that her concerns are addressed as well. Thank you.
So, Mr. Friedman?
Yes, and I appreciate the effort Council's making to try to reach an amicable resolution that'll resolve the concerns of all the neighbors there. I hope that is the case. It would be our recommendation to pass the ordinance, the proposed ordinance on first reading, in the hopes that they can pull together a written stipulation for presentation to the commission at the next meeting.
I'm all right with that. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Great.
Yeah. So.
Okay, so we have some members of the public who wish to speak. So, Ms. Stein, I believe it is. If you could go ahead at this time.
Yes, I am totally unaware of any agreements that were made. Nothing was ever sent to me. I'm totally in the dark until I talked to, prior to the notice, prior to the meeting, the 23rd, I had called in. The only thing they were going to do was talking about the vacating of the property, but there was never any mention about moving the access right next to my property, which would be detrimental to the use of my property and could pose accidents coming forward with boats. We're dealing with, instead of just one family being next door with boats, we're going to have 5, possibly 6 families next door with a boat, with a shoreline that angles at like a 45-degree angle. And it sounds like they're going to be granted 10 feet from what I understand. Like I said, I haven't seen anything in writing yet. 10 feet is not much. And if it's right next to my property, I'm very, very upset that it was never brought to my attention. I felt like I was really kept in the dark. And I would like to defer to my attorney, James Byron.
Thank you, Sharon. My name is James Byron.
Good evening.
My address is 228 West High Street, Elkhart, Indiana. I'm an attorney in Elkhart. Sharon's address is 22686 Remington Court, Elkhart, Indiana. And they own 115 Maple Drive. In LaPorte, Indiana 46350, which is lot 1 of the subdivision. And so I was somewhat encouraged by the demonstrator's attorney when he indicated that they were willing to accommodate the Stein's concerns too. I had talked with the petitioner's attorney earlier today, and my understanding was that they weren't did not want to accommodate our concerns. And so we're interested in becoming involved in those negotiations so that our concerns can be addressed as well. If our concerns are not addressed, then our basic objection is very simple. There's a subdivision plat, and one of the things that it did was it created a right-of-way for the public, and that right-of-way is Beach Drive. And that right is vested in the public. And it's indefeasible. It's indefeasible. There are at least, I counted the lots in the subdivision, and there are at least 80 lots in the subdivision, if I had the boundaries of the subdivision correct. And when each landowner purchased his or her respective lots, all of the rights and benefits shown on that plat were purchased along with the fee simple title that they got. And one of those rights and benefits shown on the plat is Beach Drive, which provides access to the lake. And lake access enhances the value of all the lots in the subdivision. And so that is a property right, just like a restrictive covenant would be a property right. And it's vested in everybody, and it's vested including the Steins. And Mr. Booty cannot unilaterally take that property right away from the Steins or any other lot owner in the subdivision. There's an Indiana appellate court case out of LaPorte County. It's Chaja, C-H-A-J-A, v. Smith, 755, Northeast 2nd, 611. And one of its holdings is the following. Once established, an indefeasible right is vested in the public. Let me start over. Once established, an indefeasible right is vested in the public. The owner of the fee, Mrs. Booty, cannot divest the public's interest therein. And according to statute, the highway continues to exist according to law. And so we're willing to become engaged with the petitioner and the other remonstrators, but if our property interests cannot be accommodated, we think there's no way that this property right, which is basically an easement, a right-of-way, whatever the characterization of it is, it cannot be just unilaterally taken away. It's something that belongs to Mr. and Mrs. Stein and every other owner of a lot in that subdivision. So we're open to negotiations. Am I right on that, Sharon? To accommodate them?
Thank you for your comments, sir.
And the only, I was going to make a correction that our property is 127 Maple Drive.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay, no problem. And also to note that my family has owned that property since 1959. And we actually bought it from Don and Kathy's mom and dad, Booty. So.
Well, thank you, everyone. So we are going to hold this over till our next meeting, and with the understanding that you will be having conversations amongst all the parties and try to come up with an amenable solution.
Madam President, I would like to clarify some things here, because especially with property rights on the island or on Pine Lake, there are terms that are being used interchangeably here, and they're not interchangeable terms. This is not an easement. It is not a right-of-way. It is plotted but undeveloped roadway. And I will indicate to the commission that you have already vacated the majority of this plotted but undeveloped roadway. There are other right-of-ways or access points all over the island that if you look at Beacon, you can see them because they were granted, or they were included in the original plat to allow inland owners with the opportunity to access the lake. That is not what the situation is here. And that is the problem that we encountered previously with the remonstrators, and we're encountering here with this interpretation of rights and benefits. They don't have the right and benefit to a plotted but undeveloped roadway, in the same way that the remonstrators don't have the right to put a pier at the end of a plotted but undeveloped roadway. So we need to be very clear here about the legal language, and I think Mr. Friedman would agree with me here that we're talking about a plotted but undeveloped roadway, not an easement and not a right-of-way access.
Thank you, sir. So I again would ask that you take this offline. There's several people on Zoom that would like to participate in this discussion, and we will see you back in at our next meeting.
And
Mr. Friedman?
We're comfortable at this point. I mean, generally a vacation occurs by an ordinance. We're comfortable moving this through because of several things. One, it's been unanimously recommended by the Plan Commission. Two, there is discussion on a potential stipulation, which hopefully will accommodate this remaining resident and their counsel. And I think to keep it moving forward, to go ahead and approve it on first reading, hold over second reading until your next meeting, if you would.
Thank you.
All right, so this is actually not a resolution, it's a recommendation from the Plan Commission.
It would need to be in ordinance form, though, if it's approved. So essentially, what you'd essentially be doing is receiving the recommendation, approving the proposed ordinance on first reading, and then holding it over consideration for this next meeting, if you would.
Okay.
Agreement, you need one of us to prepare that?
Please.
I'll prepare it, yeah.
That's how you do it at the city, too.
Yes.
Usually 2 readings.
Yeah, either the petitioner or petitioner's counsel will present the proposed ordinance, but this way the record is clear that you're moving it forward at this point and only approving the proposed ordinance to vacate on first reading.
Okay, so I would accept a motion at this time.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second to approve this on first reading with the expectation that there will be some discussion between the remonstrators.
One question first, I'm sorry if I'm out of order. Is there an ordinance before the commissioners right now?
No. We're looking for the stock ordinance that the petitioners prepare regarding vacation, and certainly a copy of it will be provided to you.
My question is there one right now?
We're not presently in possession.
Then I would say there's nothing to pass along to the next reading.
I don't agree with that.
So, thank you for that. I'm going to ask that we pass this as a recommendation. Ask that it be brought on first and second reading at our next meeting.
That's fine.
It's a recommendation.
Yes, we're recommending, passing this recommendation with the expectation that they will be returning to our next meeting with an ordinance we will then be able to hear on first and second reading, and the stipulation that you'll be discussing some of the things that the remonstrators still have concerns about.
And I guess just to be clear, I don't believe that the county needs to be involved in any discussion with the individual private property owners.
Absolutely.
And this is simply the recommendation to approve what will be the ordinance to vacate the remainder of Beach Drive.
That is correct, along with a recommendation by the commission that the parties all get together and try to negotiate an amicable resolution.
Certainly. Yep. When is the August meeting, if I may ask?
August 5th.
First Wednesday in August, but what is it, the 5th?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
5th at 10 a.m.
Thank you.
All right. We have a motion to accept this favorable recommendation and ask that they return with the ordinance on for first and second reading in our next meeting. Do we have a second?
I did.
Yeah, okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion is carried.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, thank you, sir. Next on the agenda, consider engaging Jake German of Barnes and Thornburg regarding the CARES Act reimbursement issues.
Yes, Madam President, members of the Commission, working with the Auditor's Office, we have recommended the engagement of Jake German. We've already had some conference calls with Jake and provided information to the Commission. As the Commission is aware, there has been an amount allocated by the Governor's CARES Act Committee to each county. There is essentially a science involved in properly presenting and tendering recommendations, essentially requests for reimbursement by that committee. This would formally enlist Jake and his firm in assisting in that process. We had a good conference call yesterday in terms of talking to different department heads about areas that can be used. In addition to just PPE, there are a number of areas that the CARES Act Committee has already approved reimbursement on. Jake's firm will assist in tendering those reimbursement requests to Indianapolis, and so we're requesting his engagement at this time.
I would consider a motion to accept this engagement of Mr. German to assist the county in negotiating the CARES Act and our reimbursement issues.
Madam President, I just want to make a comment before I make a motion. This CARES Act is very complicated.
Yeah.
It is very detailed. And I think having someone who has the expertise, that way our county can get our fair share of resources to fight this pandemic, I think is a great idea, and I make a motion to support this.
Second.
So thank you. We have a motion and a second, and my comment would be that the CARES Act is complicated, but this is taxpayer dollars being returned to our county to help us with our expenses, and so for a small investment, we are getting someone who's expertise in negotiating the CARES Act and having the correct contacts at all levels of federal and state government is truly going to be money wisely spent, because we expect that his expertise will help us get a bigger piece of the pie, and that is our tax dollars returning.
And I should note for the record, all three of you have said to me the same thing: let's leave no dollar untouched. I mean, we've had $3.6 million that has been allocated to LaPorte County. It could potentially be used for reimbursement, not just for PPE, but for a variety of COVID-related matters. It can be capital expenditures. For instance, there is discussion, both the IT director and our chief probation officer brought forward the recommendation about kiosks that would help provide for touchless entry in terms of use of cash, reduce hand-to-hand combat. It's certainly within the realm of those areas that would fall potentially for reimbursement, and assist obviously reducing theft and handling of cash. Those are among the areas that we're asking for guidance from this particular firm as we go the reimbursement route. The direction from all of you is bring home every dollar that we potentially can from CARES Act, and so this will help us in that regard.
Thank you so much. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Yeah, Mr. Merzinski, seconded. Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second to engage Mr. German regarding the CARES Act reimbursement. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion is carried. Next on the agenda, consider the Lexipol agreement to assist Sheriff's Department with revising policies and procedures compliant with the President's 21st Century Task Force on Policing. Sheriff Boyd, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, Commissioners. How are you tonight?
Great.
Good. It's good to see you. The Sheriff's Office is seeking to update and improve our policies and our procedures. Recently, the Indiana Sheriff's Association received a $750,000 grant from the Indiana Criminal Justice Institute to assist all 92 sheriff's offices throughout the state of Indiana to redraft, improve, update, and somewhat standardize our policies and procedures. And they've contracted with a company called Lexipol. The ISA grant will pay for the initial startup cost for the first year subscription, and it's done on a per capita basis based on the size of the department, and our amount that we'll be receiving assistance with is roughly $6,180. This is a project, though, that we identified in our strategic planning that we took part in about 5 years ago, and we identified it as a priority. Our rules and regulations haven't received a substantial update in at least 12 years. Our former legal deputy was going to redraft them, but unfortunately he passed away. We've since spoken with another attorney about it prior to the ISA receiving this grant, but cost was a bit of an obstacle. This grant came at a really good time for us, and it's enabling us to accomplish our goal. We will then in turn be paying approximately $11,000 out of our discretionary funds to implement this project, and we will have a new policy manual. The policy manual is legally defensible. It has up-to-date policies that are the foundation for consistent, safe public safety operations and are a key to lowering liability and risk. Lexipol's comprehensive policy manual covers all aspects of our agency's operations. They're going to contain more than 155 policies that have been researched and written by public safety attorneys and subject matter experts. The policies are based on state and federal laws and regulations as well as nationwide best practices. The content is customized to reflect our agency's terminology and our structure as well. But of equal importance to us is the fact that by updating and redrafting these policies and procedures, the Sheriff's Office will have in place nearly every pillar of the 21st century policing strategy and recommendations. And I'd like to remind you of those pillars that the strategy has in place. The first is building trust and legitimacy. I'm really proud of the fact as well that even prior to the civil unrest and the talk about law enforcement and redrafting policies and procedures, we had already begun to implement many of these, and many of these pillars are already in place. The first one, as I said, is building trust and legitimacy, and that is treating people with respect and dignity, giving people a voice during encounters that law enforcement has with them, being neutral and transparent in decision making, and conveying trustworthy motives. That's something that we have had in place. The next is policy and oversight, and this is a pillar that will be implemented through the Lexipol redrafting of our policies. Technology and social media, and we continue to do this, and we've had a very strong footprint in social media in LaPorte County, not only through Facebook and Twitter, but also through our website, and the fact that we continue to publish our annual reports and that they're published to our department website. Town hall meetings that we have, as well as Coffee with a Cop programs. Another pillar is community policing crime prevention, and that requires the active building of positive relationships with members of community that we already do. And one of the recommendations encourages the use of summons in lieu of custodial arrests and more warnings and citations. And of course, we've been doing that as well. And Criminal Rule 26 also helped us with that process. But certainly through COVID, we've been writing 3 or 4 times more written warnings than we have citations, because we just know how tight money is. And we also use an opportunity to stop a violator or talk to somebody that maybe is right on the brink of breaking the law or committed a minor violation, to redirect their behavior and educate them a little bit. Training and education is another pillar, and that also includes hiring officers that reflect the community that they serve. That's not only important for external relations, but also by increasing the understanding within the agency. And we are actively trying to diversify our staff, and we have been actively upgrading our training as well. And finally, officer wellness and safety. The wellness and safety of law enforcement officers is critical not only to themselves, their colleagues, and our agencies, but to public safety as well. We're already doing this through wellness programs such as our state-of-the-art physical wellness center that we have in our basement that we implemented about a year ago, our physical agility and fitness testing and incentives, as well as psychological wellness programs such as EAP, our clergy program, the ability to visit a staff psychiatrist, and newly offered equine assisted psychotherapy program that we're going to initiate actually on Friday of this week. The agreement that we have before you and that we're encouraging you to approve has been vetted through the county attorney's office and has received a unanimous vote of support from our merit commission earlier this week.
Madam President, I wanted to make a couple of comments here. First of all, I want to thank our sheriff for being very proactive in some of the things long before things that erupted all across the country happened. I think I want to thank the leadership in law enforcement in our county for being very proactive. You have been very proactive. Chief Dion Campbell has been very proactive, and I think that's what will keep our community together. And I also want to thank you for taking these recommendations of the 21st century policing to the rest of the sheriffs in the state of Indiana. So thank you for your leadership for doing that. And with that, Madam President, I make a motion to approve this.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I would second the motion and second what Doctor said. If you watch what's going on in the big cities right now, it's not a good time to be a cop. Cops never have ever made enough money or get enough credit. We are so lucky in LaPorte County to have an outstanding sheriff's department, and it's reflective of the leadership of Sheriff Boyd, for sure. I second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. I also want to second and third the comments of my colleagues, but I won't repeat them. You know how I feel about the Sheriff's Department. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
A motion has carried. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, consider resolution of need for Michigan City Courthouse project as the next step in financing. Patty Zellmer from Ice Miller, I believe, is on the line. Or she was, perhaps.
Hi, I'm an alum. I'm with Baker Tilly. I can jump in since I don't think Patty Zellmer is on the line.
Okay, thank you.
I see her on Zoom.
Thank you. That'd be great.
This is a pretty short resolution authorizing the estimated total cost of funding the project and issuance expenses is estimated not to exceed $23 million. And this resolution, the board determines that there's a need to fund a portion of the project, and that the county council is authorized to proceed to take steps that are necessary to secure the funding of the project.
Thank you.
Yes, Madam President, members of the Commission, this resolution is consistent with prior actions of the board in keeping this project moving. We've got to go obviously out to market at this point. The council is doing most of the heavy lifting in terms of some of the bond ordinance and other features of this, but this particular resolution is required by the Commission at this time to keep the financing moving.
Great, thank you.
Madam President, I make a motion to approve this.
Second the motion.
We have a motion and a second to consider the resolution of need for the Michigan City Courthouse project as the next step in financing. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Next on the agenda, consider the right-of-way agreement for Bridge 186. Engineer Jay Sullivan and planner Mitch Bishop. I think I see Mitch's. There's Mitch's phone number.
Mitch, are you there?
Hello.
Good evening. Good evening, Mitch. Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. Yes, this is Bridge 186. It traverses the Kankakee River. We're in the next phase of the process soon, probably within 4 to 6 months. And that's for right-of-way services. The first quarter of this year, Commissioner, Councilman, and Jay scored that project. And the winner was Beam, Long, and Neff. Their contracts for $43,360, and that's what's before you tonight. I believe Attorney Friedman reviewed it.
All right, thank you. Any other comments or things that we should note?
No, that's the longest bridge in our county. It's 320 feet from abutment to abutment.
Right.
And the grant that we won was at $1.5 million as a county.
Great. Thank you, Mitch. At this time, I'd consider a motion to approve the right-of-way agreement.
So moved.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second to consider the right-of-way agreement for Bridge 186. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is carried. Mitch, don't go away. Consider contract for replacement of warning and regulatory signs in remaining 9 townships.
Yes, this was also scored by Councilman Mollenauer, Dr. Core, and myself. This is for sign replacement for reflectivity in 9 different townships in our county. Roughly 5,000 signs. Warning and regulatory signs, so that's stop signs, yields, etc. It's a 90-10 grant split, and council already approved the funds, the matching funds, that is. The winner for this project was Lochner out of LaPorte, and the contract amount was $32,250, of which we paid 10%.
Thank you.
Motion to approve, Madam President.
Second motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve the contract for replacing warning and regulatory signs in the remaining 9 townships. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is carried. Next on the agenda, consider the construction inspection contract with USI for Otis Road Bridge over the Little Calumet River.
Yeah, that was Jay's project, but I can cover it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you.
So USI has been the engineer that's tasked with doing all the design services for that project, and they're moving into right-of-way, and the next phase after right-of-way would be congruent with also construction, would be construction inspection services. And I'm not sure of the contract in front of you, a dollar amount or what have you, but it is a 90 or 80-20 split, and council did approve all the matching funds for us a couple of years ago, actually.
Okay, thank you.
And that's what you're looking at there. I believe Shaw reviewed it for Jay.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, it's a New Durham Township. It's by Otis area, south of Michigan City.
All right, thank you, Mitch.
Motion to approve, Madam President.
Second that motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve the inspection contract with USI for Otis Road Bridge. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Next on the agenda, consider the contract renewal. Thank you, Mitch. Consider the contract renewal for the Community Development Specialist, Bailey McGrath of the Office of Community and Economic Development. That's the first contract. And then the second contract is consider the Health Department contract with Peggy Rose, RN, as Public Information Officer, read COVID-19 issues and reimbursable by the CARE Act funds.
Madam President, first, Ms. McGrath's contract, she has done a very good job in the Office of Economic and Community Development, and this is very similar to the one she had before, yes. And I reviewed that, and so as Attorney Friedman, so I make a motion to approve that.
Second the motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve the contract, have a contract renewal for Community Development Specialist Bailey McGrath. And before we act on the motion, I guess I would like to, I've worked very closely with Bailey. She was the spirit behind our unveiling of the new website and did a lot of the heavy lifting and footwork to get information from all of our departments so that our website would be extremely viable. The timing was something that Bailey, there you are, Bailey. Bailey didn't realize how important this website would be because we now have 250,000 hits in the last couple months because of the need for information by our community. So Bailey, I'll give you a shout out for not only the development, but I'll give you the timing thing too. She's done a tremendous job, and she's also been really resourceful in and the community end, finding ways for us to really focus on community building as part of our economic development strategy. So at this time, we have a motion and a second to renew her contract. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion has carried. Congratulations, Bailey. Next, we have the Health Department contract with Peggy Rose, who is currently an RN with the Health Department, and she will serve as Public Information Officer regarding COVID-19 issues.
Madam President, I just wanted to mention a couple of things.
Yes.
At the beginning of this pandemic, when we all got together, I specifically asked Peggy Rose to take charge of the skilled nursing facilities and assisted living facilities, which are our really high-risk areas. And she has done a fantastic job. So I think for her to step into this role as the Public Information Officer would be very good. She's very well thought of. She has extraordinary experience in nursing, in public health. She serves on the Michigan City Area School Board. I think she has a wide variety of a portfolio of talents and skills, and I think she'll really serve us well. And I make a motion to approve this.
We have a motion to approve.
I second the motion.
We have a second. I will reinforce what you said about Peggy Rose. She has not only the credentials, but she also has the passion for community health. And when I talk to people who are working or are running those assisted living and senior living facilities, they speak so highly of the communication that Peggy has had with them, that has helped guide them. As you said, they were our biggest fear, that that there would be surges in cases there, and I think Peggy's proof is in the pudding. Peggy has done an exceptional job working with those staff and with Director Butcher in making sure that they have all of their needs met. So I can't think of a better person who could be our public information officer to make sure that our community is well informed, and that we're making sure that our community knows when testing is available, where it's available, what the current trends are that we're hearing from the federal government and from the state government. So with that, let's consider that contract. All those in favor, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the contract for Peggy Rose, please indicate by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion has carried. Next on the agenda, consider the approving submission of the Community Corrections Grant application for fiscal year 2021. Rochelle, I think you were on before. Are you there? Yes, there you are. Okay.
Yes, ma'am, Madam President. Good afternoon to you all. It is for the Adult Community-Based Supervision Grant application for fiscal year 2021. It has been completed. The total amount that we're asking for is $754,389. I'm just requesting signatures today.
Yes, we've had an opportunity to review the grant. I mean, I believe it is an increase over the prior year. I think there's some transportation and other items included in it, but we believe it's consistent with prior grant requests, and we're prepared to recommend that it be moved forward.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
There was an addition on there, what, like $150,000?
Right, and I believe the office inquired of Ms. Brown, and I think there was something in terms of additional transportation. We'll have to see if she gets it or not. This is to another governmental entity, but any kind of request from Community Corrections to either a state or federal funding source has to come through you all.
Right.
And perhaps she can explain the difference. I think you're right, Commissioner. It's about $130,000 or $140,000 increase at this point.
Yeah, we're requesting, it's drastically, last year we received, give or take, about $654,000. We requested much less than that. Now we're requesting more because we didn't ask for assistance with our electrical monitoring or our day reporting reports. So this year we did. I did initially ask for a vehicle stipend of some sort. They informed me we were not able to help with that. So I had to transpose some of those numbers over to that electrical monitoring system and so forth. So it is more. And speaking with Danny, which is with the DOC, which is where this grant comes from, she said, ask for as much as you like.
That's a smart business strategy, Rochelle. You always ask for more than you hope you will get. So great, thank you.
So this doesn't go through the county council at all, then?
No,
vehicles or for anything else?
No, they simply need the commissioner's approval to seek the DOC grant at this point. So.
And you've looked this over, everything is good?
Yes, there are, before, if Ms. Brown wants to give me a call, there are a couple of things where we think we can tighten up the application a little bit, so I'm more than happy to visit with her before. I think it has to be submitted on Friday.
That is correct.
So if you'll call my office tomorrow, just a couple of fine-tuning that we can suggest, but we're good recommending it.
Great.
Will do.
Thank you.
I made a motion.
Yes, we have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor of approving the submission of the Community Corrections Grant application signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you, Ms. Brown. Next on the agenda, consider requesting the county health officer issue face covering mandate similar to that adopted by Elkhart County and other counties in Indiana.
Madam President, before we turn it over to the county health officer, I have a few comments to make. Darlene, can you put up that graph, please? You know, as Darlene is putting up that graph, I just want to mention to all the listeners here as well as at home, that it is extremely unfortunate that an issue that should be purely a public health issue has become a political issue in our country. Shame on us for doing that. And instead of dealing it as a public health issue by politicizing it, we as a country have lost a great opportunity and we have fallen behind. Look at the numbers with the rest of the world. And where are we? We used to lead the world in everything, and we need to get back there. And the way we can get back there is by sticking to facts, to truth, and to science. And that's what we want to do in our county. So if we look at, those are the LaPorte County cases. We had almost gotten down to 0, and now you can see the uptrend. So it is not just because we are doing more tests, as some people would make us believe. It's because there is more spread going on. And I can say it firsthand because I practice. I practice in the office every day. I practice in the hospital every day. I see it firsthand. So there is, it's gradually going up. Darlene, can you put up the state numbers, please? By the way, this is not unique to our county. It's happening in our state. So the graph is down. Yeah. So if you, I think this is, if you can see that, we peaked and then we were coming down nicely, and we really didn't get down to where we needed to get. And now we are, you can see the uptick. It's going up. All right. So I just wanted, I think it's always good to have a visual. So here's the reality. The realities are, in our country, we have 65,000, in excess of 65,000 positive cases a day. So the state numbers are going up, the county numbers are going up. So what have we done successfully to mitigate? So in our hospitals, what we followed was the 4 pillars. The 4 pillars is masking, social distancing, hand hygiene, and then if somebody is sick, you just stay home. And that's how we prevent the spread. So, and we have been working with this for the past 4 months in the hospitals, and we have been successful. Now, do I like mandates? No. Do I like wearing a mask? No, I don't like wearing a mask, but I do it because that's the right thing to do. Now, one of the things that was talked about earlier was that the masks really do not protect. And I agree with that. It will not protect me from others, but it's going to protect others from me if I have the infection and if I do not have symptoms. I think this is the one thing everybody should understand. By wearing a mask, it is not that you are being protected, but you are protecting others in case I have that infection and I don't have symptoms. So I really think wearing a mask is an act of kindness, compassion, respect, humility, and love to your fellow human beings. It's really as simple as that. And I think every human being should take it as with that approach, and I think right things will happen. Now, somebody was talking. I think one of our speakers in the public comment said he's a financial planner. I just wanted to share with him, and Dan, maybe you could share with him. There is an article from Forbes magazine, and the Forbes magazine quoted a study by Goldman Sachs. It's not my study, by Goldman Sachs, that said that a national mask mandate will have a positive impact of $1 trillion to the U.S. economy, not B, a T, $1 trillion. So that's the significant impact of having a mask. You know, it's a nuisance. I recognize that. I do it every day, morning to evening. I don't like it. But, you know, if we can protect each other and if we can have a significant positive economic impact, why not do it? And I think we should. And I think we should all, you know, instead of listening to some talking heads on the TV, just Google, find the facts, read, think for ourselves. I think that's what God gave us a brain, and we need to think for ourselves. And there are many countries who have done all this, and they have brought the numbers down to the point where their schools are reopening, their businesses are reopening, their economy is coming back on track, and here we are stuck because of arguments like these. And I think we need to move past this. I think everybody needs to start understanding that this is a pandemic. What we do does not just impact us, it impacts everybody else around us. So we need to take care of our kids, we need to take care of our elders. I had a lady today, I admitted her to the hospital. This lady is 78 years old, and she went to the birthday party of her great-grandchild, and then she contracted COVID, and then she's in the hospital. God willing, she'll be okay, and but what I'm saying is, whatever we do, it has an impact on other people. And also during the public comment, it was said that our death rate has gone down. Yes, it has gone down. And because our therapeutics have gotten better, we are able to take care of people better. The addition of Decadron has been helpful. One of the things we noticed 3 or 4 months ago when we were seeing a lot of these cases and a lot of them were dying was there was blood clotting that was taking place all over the body. So what we do right now is when we admit them, we right away we put them on blood thinners. So we put them on Decadron, we put them on blood thinners, we put them on remdesivir, and yes, the mortality rate and the death rate has gone down, thank God. And as a matter of fact, whenever we discharge a COVID patient at the hospital, there's music. So we know, so we all know, actually we feel good. We feel really happy that we have successfully treated a COVID patient and that COVID patient is being discharged. So those are the things. I really feel that a mask is a good thing to do. Other counties have done it. I'm glad they have done it. And because of the fact, as I've shown you in the graph, that the numbers are gradually going up, instead of waiting till it becomes really out of control and then having to consider another shutdown or something like that, we should not have a shutdown. We should have the economy chugging along, moving along. And if we can take some of these precautions, we can keep the businesses open. Hopefully we can reopen the schools and keep the kids safe. I think there are a lot of positive things about it. And again, one more time I want to repeat, when I wear a mask, I am not protecting myself, I am protecting you from me. I think that's the thing that everybody should understand. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you, Dr. Cora. Brilliant. We have the Health Department on, our Chief Health Officer.
Hi, can you hear me?
Good evening. Yes, we can hear you.
You know, I obviously agree with everything Dr. Cora says. Another interesting comment that was made earlier is about herd immunity. And unfortunately, there was some really big studies that have come out in the last few days showing that that may not be possible, is that people are not maintaining their antibodies to COVID. In the same way with the vaccine, they're talking about this may not be a one-and-out vaccine. The newest one, or not, sorry, one of the lead ones is a two-part. But unfortunately, people are not maintaining immunity. So to say, let's all get it and then it'll go away does not seem to be what's happening. I mean, that to me was a little unnerving, is that we will not develop. It's not chickenpox, folks, is that if you get chickenpox, you're good. And this idea of these COVID parties is something that has to absolutely be, I don't know, shake your head when people are thinking about doing that. There was one young woman, 30, who went to it. She said, I think I made a mistake, and that was 2 days before she died. Mm-hmm. So I am absolutely in favor of wearing masks, and I am aware that this will not necessarily be something that we can insist on, or no one's asking the police or the sheriff's department to go after everybody. There's not going to be a COVID police force that are enforcing masks, but even if it gets significantly more number of people wearing them, I think that's a huge bonus to start with. And more publicity with regards to the fact that, again, what people don't understand is what Dr. Cora was saying and saying again, and you're not protecting yourself, you're protecting me. I'm grandma. Don't kill grandma is, I think something that's incredibly important to me as a grandma. But you're protecting me, you're protecting your elders, you're protecting anybody that has an immune system issue. And I think if we could get that out a little bit more to people, is that this is why we want you to do it, is care about the people around you.
Thank you, Dr. Ducey. I'm going to read into the record the public health order that you have presented this evening so that we can make sure that everyone understands clearly what it says. So this is a LaPorte County Health Department public health order, face covering mandate. The outbreak of a new coronavirus continues to cause the disease called COVID-19. COVID-19 is having a direct impact on the health and safety of LaPorte County residents. LaPorte County is experiencing increased number of confirmed positive cases of COVID-19. In order to protect public health, restrictions must be established to help curb the spread of COVID-19. With this understanding, I hereby order the following, effective July 17th, 2020 at 12:01 a.m. A. Face covering mandate. Every individual must properly wear a face covering over their nose and mouth when they are at an indoor area open to the public, including public transportation. Number 2, an outdoor public area where a distance of 6 feet from individuals outside of their household cannot be maintained. And 3, a private indoor or outdoor area where a distance of 6 feet from individuals outside of their household cannot be maintained. An adult should supervise use of face covering by children ages 3 to 12 to avoid misuse. A properly worn face covering is one that fully covers the individual's mouth and nose, fits snugly against the side of the face with no gaps, is secured with straps or ear loops to prevent slipping, and allows for breathing with no restrictions. All face covering, which are not disposed of after each use, should be washed each day if it is used and made completely dry before the next use. B. Exceptions to the face covering mandate. The LaPorte County Health Department recognizes that the following individuals are not required to wear a face covering as a result of this public health order. Number 1, any child aged 2 years or less, because a face covering may cause this child to suffocate. Number 2, any individual who has a physical disability that prevents easily wearing or removing a face covering. Number 3, any individual who is deaf and needs to remove the face covering to use facial and mouth movements as part of their communication. Number 4, any individual who is advised by medical professionals that wearing a face covering may pose a risk to the person wearing the face covering for health-related reasons. Number 5, any individual who has trouble breathing or is unconscious, incapacitated, or otherwise unable to remove the face covering without assistance. Number 6, any individual who is directed to remove a face covering by a law enforcement officer. Number 7, any employee engaged in a work-related activity where a face covering would serve to present or exacerbate a hazard as recognized by the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. Number 8, any employee in a manufacturing or work environment where management has determined that high temperature or concurrent use of other protective gear makes mask wearing impractical, unsafe, and where virus transmission is being prevented by social distancing. Number 9, any individual whose religious beliefs prevent them from wearing a face covering. 10, any restaurant or bar customer while they are dining. And number 11, any individual who is, number 1, not in an area open to the public, and 2, can maintain at least 6 feet from other individuals not residing in his or her household. Business and employer requirements. Every business and employer in LaPorte County must take the following steps to ensure that all employees and visitors of that entity comply with this order. All employers in LaPorte County must amend their COVID-19 confined operation plan to require all employees and visitors to wear face coverings in accordance with this order. Number 2, all businesses must post the English and Spanish version of this order, and the PDF copy will be available at the county website, LaPorte laportecounty.in.gov/health at each available entrance to their building. All business must continue to follow the executive order of the governor and any other orders issued by state or local officials. This includes, but is not limited to, maintaining social distance of at least 6 feet of separation and sanitation requirements. D, intent and use of this order. The intent of this order is to mandate that all people in LaPorte County, whether engaged in work activities, social activities, or everyday activities, wear a face covering as outlined herein to prevent the spread of COVID-19. This order is necessary to slow the spread of COVID-19 throughout LaPorte County and protect public health. When applying this order, it is important to remember the following. Number 1, nothing in this order reduces or eliminates the requirements imposed by the executive orders of Governor Holcomb or imposed by any directive or order from the local health officer, governor, or other regulatory local, state, or federal agency. Number 2, actions that contradict this order do not create grounds for residents, this is important, or law enforcement to stop, detain, issue a citation, arrest, intimidate, or harass individuals that do not comply with this order. This order should be used to educate, encourage, and persuade individuals to wear face coverings. Number 3, use of a face mask does not replace the need to take the additional necessary protective measures set forth in Section E below. Section E, additional necessary protective measures. Use of a face covering as mandated by this order does not replace the need for all LaPorte County residents, employers, and visitors to take additional necessary protective measures to protect against the spread of COVID-19. To keep LaPorte County working, activities open, and ourselves healthy, everyone should maintain the following basic protective measures. Number 1, wash your hands frequently during the day for 20 seconds with soap and water. If this is not available, use hand sanitizer with at least a 60% alcohol content. Number 2, maintain a distance of 6 feet of distance between yourself and individuals outside of your household. Number 3, avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth with unwashed hands. Number 4, stay home and isolate yourself from other members of your household if you are sick. Number 5, avoid being around sick people. Number 6, clean frequently, touch surfaces often, sneeze and cough in the inside of your elbow or in a tissue or handkerchief. Section 5, scope and duration. This order goes into effect at 12:01 a.m. on July 17, 2020. This order will remain in effect until rescinded by the LaPorte County local health officer. Prior to rescinding this order, the health officer intends to examine the number and percentages of positive cases in LaPorte County in comparison to the state of Indiana, the hospitalization census for LaPorte County, and the availability of ICU beds in LaPorte County. Compliance with this order is not required to the extent necessary to comply with any federal, state, or local laws, rules, and regulations. Signed and issued this day, what's today's date? July 17th, 2020 in LaPorte County by Dr. Sandra Ducey, LaPorte County Chief Health Officer. Dr. Ducey, do you have any other comments that you want to make at this time?
Maybe Sean was going to, somebody was going to mention, but along with that is a really good question and answer thing that will be put out for people to look at so they can understand, maybe just a little bit clearer. Some of that's a bit legalese, but it will become very clear to them if they would look at that. But I think generally that's the gist.
Madam
Thank
President.
you. So this is an FAQ that accompanies the order. The FAQ will be available on the LaPorte County website, and it will also be available through the media. So we'll have the order available as well as the FAQs, which has, I think, 27 questions and answers for members of the public who want to know more.
Yes, Madam President, it was both the Commission and Dr. Ducey that asked our office to research some of the different orders around the state, attempt to secure one that was most applicable and probably most workable. Just a couple of observations from the legal side, if I could. We spoke with the Elkhart County Attorney, and I should say that much of this order is inspired by what Elkhart County did. I spoke with the Elkhart County Attorney today, who was responsible for drafting their order. He said most of the reaction has been positive, mainly from businesses that wanted backup and support from the health department. He says they tried issuing guidance before and it simply didn't work. We've made some changes to some of the initial draft, including a revised order that includes a section suggested by Councilman Yagelski to Dr. Cora, listed as number 8 in the list of exceptions. We also have tonight copies for distribution of the report that Dr. Cora referenced by Goldman Sachs, suggesting a national mask mandate would slow the growth rate of coronavirus infections considerably and save the U.S. economy $1 trillion, and that'll be on the website as well. As I mentioned to you all yesterday, the proposed order reflects a clear intent, and I think Dr. Ducey referenced this as well, not to set up an elaborate enforcement scheme or to have neighbors informing on neighbors. Marion County, in fact, reported 80,000 calls to a call center with members of the public complaining about others not wearing masks. This order that you've recommended, which Dr. Ducey is prepared to sign, is designed to be self-enforcing, with residents and businesses encouraged to bring themselves into voluntary compliance for the good of themselves and their neighbors. The statement that you read, Commissioner Matias, in D2 says clearly, actions that contradict this order do not create grounds for residents or law enforcement to stop, detain, issue a citation, arrest, intimidate, or harass individuals that do not comply with the order. The order should be used to educate, encourage, and persuade individuals to wear face coverings. And I think that's an important reference as well. A couple of final items so that the Commission's updated, Dr. Ducey's updated in terms of where things are at as of tonight. The Alabama governor had just this afternoon issued a statewide order requiring all residents there to wear masks in public. The move comes as Walmart announced customers will be required to wear masks at its more than 5,000 stores beginning July 20th. Kroger has announced it will require all shoppers to wear masks beginning July 22nd. And in conclusion, I want to reference what Dr. Cora has mentioned in terms of the CDC. CDC Director Robert Redfield said today, and I quote, "If everyone wore a mask right now, we would bring this epidemic under control within 4 to 8 weeks." Yeah. So I'm simply relaying what we have. It's the best information. The Commission tasked us with researching some of the better orders out there and looking into the current status of things along with Dr. Ducey. And as you mentioned, there is a frequently asked questions guide which is going to be provided on the website as well. That should help and assist members of the public as they seek to understand what the Commission is considering tonight.
Thank you.
Madam President, I had a couple of other comments,
okay.
And before I make a motion, this is a very sad story because people are misguided, misinformed. A 30-year-old gentleman in Texas went to a quote-unquote COVID party where somebody had tested positive for COVID, and thinking that this is a hoax. And then he contracted COVID. And, you know, a lot of people think that young people don't die, but even young people die of COVID. Mm-hmm. And then he ended up dying. And before he died, he told the nurse that I made a big mistake. I thought this was a hoax. I mean, I really feel sad for him. I feel sad for his family. But the extent of misinformation that is out there is absolutely ridiculous. So we need to approach this as a public health problem, and that's how we need to approach it and deal with it. On a positive note, I was encouraged yesterday. There was an article in New England Journal. The vaccine trials are proceeding nicely. And the Moderna, which has been tasked with developing the vaccine, have made significant progress. I think they are going into phase 3 trials where large numbers of people will be tested. The small numbers that were tested developed significant amount of antibodies, and so they're going to do a larger trial before it's released to the public. So I'm optimistic that by the end of the year we may have a vaccine in place. And until the vaccine is in place, we have to deal with this pandemic. I mean, we have no other choice. And we need to do whatever adjustments we need to make to keep life tolerable, safe, and so that we can keep our families and friends and neighbors and co-workers safe, and that way, and we can keep the economy moving. I think all these are important. Other countries have done it, and there's no reason why we should not be doing it. With that, I make a motion to approve.
So we have a motion to approve. Commissioner Rosinski?
Yeah,
do you have any comments?
I do.
Okay.
Thank you. I have to appreciate Dr. Cora's passionate beliefs on this. I know we talk about it a lot, and I know he's very passionate, and this is It's his job. He's a doctor. I have had a lot of phone calls about this since it went public, that we had this motion tonight. A lot of people that have called me said that we are infringing on their civil liberties, telling them what they have to do. People are either going to wear the mask or they're not. If you walk around LaPorte, if you go shopping in LaPorte, you're going to see that people, you're not going to make them wear a mask, and it's not enforceable. The thing I really had objection to when I looked at this today is the private indoor or outdoor areas where distancing can't be maintained. So if I'm sitting on my deck and my neighbors come over and then my daughter stops by with her son-in-law, I'm thinking, well, we're going to spread out across the whole deck or else we're going to have to all wear a mask. And I don't think that's very realistic. And the other thing that we're requiring all employers to make people wear a mask in their business. Now, I can see for our buildings, for our county buildings, we have the right to make people wear a mask to come in our building. But I think we're overreaching if you're going to try to make everybody else that has a business to tell them how to run their business. We can't even make the post office wear their mask when they come in our buildings. You know, you went through that with them. And what you mentioned about the overburdening of the sheriff's department or 911, people calling in to want to rat out their neighbor or people they don't even know. Personally, I think, as I said, everybody knows what's going on. There's people who will wear a mask no matter what. I see people driving in their car wearing a mask. God bless them. But I see people in the stores that they'll be very vocal about it, that they're not going to wear a mask and you're not going to make them wear a mask. So I would think that this could possibly backfire by us coming out with a mandate. As I explained in my email earlier today, which at least Shaw did answer me, and he gave a good answer. So if it was a recommendation or a suggestion, he claims that doesn't really work very well. But to come out with a mandate saying you will, I think we're overreaching, and I can't really go along with that. I have to agree with the phone calls that I've gotten that we're kind of overstepping here. So that's my comment.
All right, thank you. I'm going to then go ahead and second this motion. And before I call for the question, I don't like to wear a mask either. It messes up my makeup and it's hot and nasty. But I also have heard too many stories. We get the daily report from the health department, a list of the demographics on people who have COVID tested positive. And when I see people who are under 50, who are in communities all across this county, from Wanata to Westville to Michigan City to LaPorte to Union Mills, that have COVID, it concerns me greatly. This order, we have to repeat again, while it's called a mandate, it says this order should be used to educate, encourage, and persuade individuals to wear face coverings. If we can do anything to slow the spread of this to children, to our elderly folks, to our grandmas and grandpas, to people who have had surgery, who are fighting cancer, who have leukemia, I think that Dr. Kaur is quite right. It's an act of kindness, it's an act of love between humans, and it's the right thing to do. My son has a friend who is a 33-year-old marathon runner. He has been struggling with COVID for 3 months, and he finally decided he wanted to go get some exercise. 33 years old, great nutrition, doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, and runs marathons. He made it around about half around the city block that he lived on, and he had to stop and lean against a pole because he didn't have the lung strength to carry him forward to get back home. That's a 33-year-old, and that's frightening. Today I read in the Florida, in Miami County, the Sun-Sentinel newspaper is reported on testing young people. 1 in 3 children who are tested for COVID in Florida are testing positive. That is not a joke. That is not a joke. Those are somebody's babies, somebody's children. We cannot solve this problem by fretting about it, by talking about our rights. I am all for rights, but you know what? It's your right to die, but it's not your right to have somebody else get your germs. So I think just like we wear seatbelts, we wear helmets on our bicycles, on our motorcycles, we wear clothes when we go into stores, we put shoes on our feet because it's good hygiene. This is something that just is a common decency, and I want to say to everyone, just wear the damn mask. It is not comfortable. It is not something that we all relish, but if we do it for a couple weeks, as the CDC physician said today, if we all wear a mask, we can cut the spread. Within 4 to 6 weeks, we will see a significant change. And so when those numbers come in every day, I hesitate to open the email, because I know that it has went from being 1 and 2 and 0 a day to 12 to 24 a day. That's not a joke. That's somebody's mom and dad and brother and sister and uncle and grandma and grandpa. So I think it's the least we can do for each other to show that we care about each other, and this is what makes LaPorte County proud and the best place to live in the United States. So with that, I would second the motion and call for the question. All those in favor of this mandate for face covering recommendation signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
We have two positives, 1 negative. The motion has carried. All right. Next on the agenda, we have commissioners' comments. Are there any commissioners who wish to speak at this time?
Madam President, yeah, we have had a long evening, but there are a few things I wanted to talk about. One is I looked at our health insurance for the employees. Our numbers are good. Actually, we have spent $770,000 less than what we anticipated, so that part is going good. I did, as both of you know, I chaired the Workforce Development Chief Elected Officials Board for Workforce Development for Northwest Indiana as the representative of this commission, and that work is going on well. The unemployment rate in our area had gone up, but it started to come down, and we are working on some of the measures we can do to help retrain and improve the skills. The third thing is I had a good conversation with the Healthcare Foundation of LaPorte. They have a nurse navigator program and a family nurse partnership program in place to help take care of high-risk obstetric patients, to improve to reduce the maternal mortality as well as infant mortality. I did attend the child fatality review team that was chaired by County Prosecutor John Lake. Lastly, I just want to talk a little bit about absentee voting. Darlene, can you put that up, please? We had passed a resolution that was sent to the governor's office and the Secretary of State asking for absentee voting to be made available for everyone with no excuse absentee voting. We have not heard from them yet. This pandemic is going to be there through November for sure, and I think if they can take action and take action quickly, it'll be helpful. But I just wanted all the listeners out there to know that even without the governor's order, based on the current regulations, you can request absentee voting by mail, and there are several categories of individuals, including those with disabilities, those who are over 65, and those who are working on the day of election, or they will be out of town, or they cannot go and vote in person because for religious reasons, or they are in military or other public safety offices. So all of you who belong to this category, and if you intend to vote by mail, I think you can start requesting that now. You can do it now, because the earlier you can send that request, it's easier for our county clerk's office and her staff to handle it, rather than waiting till the last moment. So I just wanted to share that with everyone, and thank you for the opportunity, and that's the end of my comment.
Thank you, Dr. Cora. Mr. Mercinski.
Yeah, actually, a point of order on, and I didn't want to interrupt Dr. Cora because he kind of jumped right in there, but on item I was engaging the the attorney, I was still asking questions about this contract, this grant approval. I didn't hear anything about it until right before our meeting, and I never did get a chance to look at it. And I know I had questions, and even our attorney said there's a few things he need to tweak on it as far as with this extra $150,000 what it's going for. I never did second the motion. I think you thought you heard me, but I was actually engaging the attorney. I didn't really second the motion because I still have concerns about what the extra money is for, especially in light of recent situations that we've had out there.
All right.
So I wanted to bring that up, but I didn't actually second that motion.
Okay. So, Attorney Friedman, what would you suggest?
Well, I think that if Mr. Mrozinski certainly can correct his vote on the record so that it apparently was a 2-to-1 to
exactly
to forward that, and that's certainly appropriate. What I would indicate too is that they're on deadline to file by Friday, and so it's my hope that we can help fine-tune the submission, and that's why I suggested to Ms. Brown she give me a call, and we can go over some of the things that I've seen in there that perhaps can be fine-tuned and improved in the submission.
Well, I'm pretty much in the office every day, or at least you can know how to get a hold of me. So I would like to discuss that with you, what the issues are.
Absolutely. What I'll do is this. Why don't I scan the contract that was sent to me, get it to all three of you, and so that way we've all got additional time as you all see any kind of fine-tuning that should be done in that before its submission. That would be helpful.
Okay. I think so.
Yep.
All right. My only comment before closing is, we have the pandemic and it's changed everyone's lives, but there are some silver linings. One of them I want to call out Council President Randy Novak, who hosts a county-wide call every Thursday, and the collaboration and cooperation between folks who often don't get a chance to be in the same room together, but Zoom has really helped us be very collegial across, for example, the foundations in our county, the United Way, folks who normally don't have a chance to problem solve with us are now rolling up their sleeves with the school districts, the hospitals, all the governmental agencies, leaders in the business community, tourism. Everyone is talking, and I'm hoping that that's the silver lining that doesn't go away when this is over, that we've really improved our ability to work together through this pandemic. So with that, meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.